So hello there everyone, and welcome to today's video with me here today. Today's video will be a shorter update on the synthesis of the Great Transgression work, which was, I believe, the most important Illumined legacy that the entire Illumined mission team has been undergoing and performing during this time. Sorry about the wind, it's pretty wild up here today, the weather, but the energies are actually pretty good. So much has been cleared up recently. And what I want to talk about today is especially in regards to the topic that was most precious and dear to my heart, but also the most difficult part of my journey as a human Illumined embodiment and Illumined seed in this lifetime. And to witness this transgression in others, but mostly experience it in my own body, was the most difficult thing I ever experienced in this life. And yet it was a legacy of Aurea's liberation and breakthrough work with this transgression. So before I begin and go into it, I just want to say I'm doing kind of quick video disseminating and sharing in the last few days. As you can see, you will be all able to watch them much later, but this is kind of like the timeline I'm on and receiving a lot of information. And until July, I only have a few days left, so I'm quickly going through the things that they're still showing me that are important to share, as well as I've just recently deposited a very important transmission on Patreon about the threefold nature of our being for our union and how this relates to our ascension and our union. So I also talked about the cosmic Christ principle, but I've decided now that when I surrender all the other work in the beginning of July, I will finally be able to sit down and record the mini parts that all comprise the big part that is the cosmic Christ content, that is a huge importance in this universe, how the organic life force of God operates throughout this vast galaxy, how it's not just the Christ in general to understand, but how this principle of life is being dispensated and how it moves, and what are the principles of light used throughout various systems of life in the holy Trinity of life called the Golden Triangle. I talked about this today in the transmission. I won't go into it here. But for everyone who is ascending, I've written this statement here today, which Spirit said is the main graduation point. And the main graduation point for all beings who will be ascending through their own union process is to use the essence of Illumined union to return self, chosen or sovereign creation into the Illumined seed of life that is immaculate and of God. So remember when I shared the example of our living space in our house, and those of you who watched that, I'm not going to go explaining that again, but I talked about this very important process through which we, with the entire golden team or golden circle of Illumined life, we've been doing this, and we've been setting up the energy to pull this creation, that is this house. It's not just a physical house, but it's also an energetic creation. You know, it's all energetic before it's physical. So we had to excavate it and remove it from the dark seed and anchor it into our Illumined seed of life. So the key graduation point that it has been our own Illumined legacy work, which will continue even after my transition and my movement back home, it will be the most important legacy. So everyone who is going to ascend will have to understand that all these things, not everyone will do, right? I was meant to do this work. It was a part of my own mastery and skill in this human life. But if none other than that, from that example, the same goes for our body, that the true purpose of our being, who we truly are, is not to chase around darkness, to rebel darkness, to fight darkness, to excavate information, dig for information for darkness, because in itself has fallen, has fragmented, and it wants answers. And it's taking all the life force intelligence of all the illumined beings, and because it can't get directly our intelligence, because in itself it's illumined, so it doesn't give itself away. It takes our children, which means it takes that birthed through love creations of all illumined beings, and these are all the star children, all the pure immaculate children who go out into creation, and many of them, you know, they're learning their own skills and so, and refining them. And during the process they were so deeply interjected, hijacked, and also transgressed. So I was talking about this today on Patreon, and you have to know it's no one's mission as a human here in this plane of reality to fight evil spirits. You have to know that our God is a benevolent God, and God does not put human, who is a creation of love. Remember, human represents the heart of God. That's the most innocent part of God, right? The part of God that is the child. That's what the human represents. And with this in mind, God did not send people here, not even the star children, to fight a war with evil spirits. God says spirits fight spirits. The human is here with the solemn purpose of integrating their threefold nature for ascension. And I talked about this today in the transmission. It's there on Patreon. It's at the 2nd tier level for the Illumined Union guidance and beloved embodiment. And so it will always stay there. And all these teachings, as I've already explained, will continue to be there. And the last one, I finally will be able to do after 3 years of not being able to, because this transgression work was priority and was my main experience in this time, will be the culmination point. It will be a graduation point for me. I also explained today in the transmission the difference between a mission and a purpose. I've talked about this before. A lot of people think everyone has a mission. No, everyone has a purpose. Not everyone has a mission. Missions are given to advanced beings who come usually not for their own selves. They come with a mission statement that is a part of what we call our own mission agent, the inner dweller that is the mission agent. And the mission versus a purpose is defined by someone who uses that mission as a part of also a greater group collective. And it's what the work I was doing as Aurea's descent embodiment with my Illumined team. I'll just give you my example. I won't go into that today because that's already shared in the transmission on Patreon. But in my own example, right, the mission quest, the self-quest that I gave myself, that Aurea gave to herself, and that's why she created me in this way through her vow. She said, I vow to end the transgression phenomena of all the star children by doing the liberation breakthrough work. It doesn't mean in itself, this mission statement, that she's going to be the only one doing that, because no one being can end the transgression phenomena, but that she was the great initiator of this quest. And this pulled the legions of many Illumined initiatives who are now doing the work of liberation tactics and have been learning it, and have been seeing under the domain of Aurea and many of those who were in the closest circle to this work that we're doing. And the golden trine is the cosmic Christ principle of life that I explain again also today in the transmission, but I will go into a little more when I'm going to show you the drawing in the last video I'll do about Illumined Union, right? Through the beloved integration. So this vow, this intention created me. It went into my human child seed, and only when this mission work was to be completed and was complete, a higher purpose of God could actually unfold. And it goes the same for every star being. My higher purpose is Illumined Union and Ascension. Of course, that's a physical demonstration of a physical ascension, which is organic, beloved, illumined physical ascension. So that's God's highest purpose, to deliver the miracle that is the Christ, which again is the cosmic Christ principle, consists of 3 principles within the golden triangle. I talked about this in transmission. It's not just one, but when you understand the Trinity of Christ, right, the feminine, masculine, and their union, this is the Trinity of Christ. This is what we call the cosmic Christ. It's called also the tantric or the golden triangle. And only through this Christ, as I explain also today, physical ascension is possible. So this demonstration, the miracle workings of God, is that the Christ through the human child can come through, and that can only be done so when there's a threefold nature of the spirit, the heart, and the physical vessel, the body, that is now fully aligned, impeccable, immaculate, and perfected. I also talked about this today. So we become the Immaculate One, and we merged in union with all these three aspects, because you can't, like I said, you can't be just the spirit and body. It's the spirit, the soul, essence, and the body. This is the threefolded nature. It corresponds to our threefolded nature of our name, and we've talked about it in the previous video. That's just a mini summary, but today I want to do just a mini summarization and synthesis of the Great Transgression work, because the meaning of me fulfilling my part, and I went straight to God and I said, God, this body, this human body suffered enough. Is it my time? You know, there were several instances when I went directly to the great Godhead, to our beloved creator of life. And God said, of course, no more, because you've done even on top, you've even topped yourself. You've done more than enough. No more needed. This physical body, no one knows but myself and my beloved human companion, my beloved mother, and my child, my everything in spirit, my family. And only us two know, and we were told even by illumined beings, that no physical body so far has suffered so many attacks, so much pain, so much transgression, and that's because of my vow. So it's not just that what I had experienced directly because it was my training, it was my vow to go in it, because the only way to go in it was that we were able to create a transgression tactics of liberation. So even my team was one with me, and through every attack, through every electrical discharge, remember I shared this before, they were tracing the origin of how and what they do, right? And remember when they said it's eventually all going to backfire back on them, but we're not there yet. We're not at that big bang for the darkness level yet. So as I will go and I will ascend, my physical ascension, as I was shown, will trigger a huge, it's going to like pull a lot of the things along with it. But the thing is, it won't in itself end the phenomena directly yet. What it will do, of course, is because due to our legacy, many of the star children will be able to also liberate and free themselves. But today I want to tell you that just because not every one of those children was able, let's say, to have a one-on-one session with me, with us, with my team, or have an illumined rebirth, it doesn't mean that they won't be able to liberate. I want to again remind you that I have an illumined training here, a video playlist on YouTube. I have an illumined mission playlist, and all about transgression work is in all of the videos, so anyone who has a slight intent to really liberate themselves can do it. But for the advanced level work, there's the 7 sacred spiral teachings, which are golden Christ spiral teachings, is to how to proliferate life through your body. And even if you don't know anything, even if you never come across these teachings, you have to know that you have your own sovereign will, that you can liberate yourself. That, you know, things like, I've shared many activations during the course of my unfolding and what I channeled. There's also Illumined Rebirth meditation and light activation on my webpage, and you can get and still access that. And even after, you know, I'm no longer here physically, the content will remain. It's just going to be maybe a little different configuration of how people might access it. But nonetheless, the most important thing, as always, is you knowing what this is, walking alongside with this, taking in the teachings, listening, paying attention, because you can't just, let's say, watch one video, get a little piece of information, but leave the rest. But then the third most important aspect, which is probably the first one, is your own connection to God through prayer, through invocation for your liberation, to, you know, through the act of fervent prayer. That's how I was able to liberate the most. And even if you don't have any knowledge, which of course all the spiral teachings are advanced knowledge for physical ascension, and even if it's a starting point for you and you feel you're still kind of a newbie in this sense, anyone has direct access to source. The darkness tells you you don't, and there's layers and blockages in between. Again, it's another deception. It's just that it requires the diligent attention how to really connect, not just with your mind, but how to connect with all of your being, with all of your body, because it's your physical body that sends out signal to the great God, our beloved creator of life. And for you to understand that life is not linear, life is not mind, universe is not mental, like, you know, many supposedly great teachers have been saying, all of God is based on a spiral. Every information we receive out of illumined light is a spiral. It's a spiral that unfolds and we receive it. We receive it the most and in most pure alignment when our bodies are attuned to the spiral. So hence I shared all the life force cultivation teachings, cosmic orgasm teaching, all of these teachings were a part of you moving your body, and to understand again what I've shared before, that the principle of Christ is an active principle, which is in the truth. When they said, right, the Illumined once said, truth is found through constant movement of life force. You need to keep on moving and moving and not staying stuck and stagnant. But the most important part is knowing the absolution, and almost like, you know, when you can give the gift of not just liberation, but deliverance to someone, is when you go straight to God and simply ask, is simply in a way that you are pleading like with all of your being. It doesn't mean that God is not hearing you enough and that God needs you to plead, you know, your case or anything like that. But what it means is that you understand that through that process, you're humbling yourself before God, which means that you're not trying to find solutions through your ego on your own by yourself, because transgression work and any kind of dispelling work is only successful when you understand yourself as a part of the greater group collective that's a we. I've been talking about this before, and especially I think once I shared a video here during the winter timeline. I shared a transmission with all of the beings, even the Algoran, right, the great tree elders, and to understand that to fight such a phenomena, you don't fight it yourself as an individual. It's not what God asks from you, but you are employing intelligences that are here to serve you and work as one with you. But until you know these things for fact, until you don't know your divine birthrights as a sovereign being, and that we are here we're a camaraderie. We don't work each man on its own. We work together. We work as a family. In my Illumined Council of Light, they always say, here we are a we. Which means that you're going to have to start employing the real beings, and, you know, the best scenario, employing God to finally feel yourself with all of your heart that you are a child of God and you deserve this. Hence the fervent prayer. Not that God needs you to plead and go your knees, but sometimes it puts us in this almost like completely surrendered space. It's for us, and it's for the dropping of our barriers, defenses, and ego, right? The shackles that keep us in separation. And the only way to heal the separation is to step into a bigger space of unity. And the only true key prayer here that works is, God, give me life eternal and everlasting. I am your child. I am a sovereign being. And even with all of, you know, new age mantras and statements, whatever, the statement that really instantly aligns you with your sovereign nature of the self as a chosen one of God, as the firstborn of God, and then also with God of all life, creator of all life, is that I'm a sovereign being, I'm a child of God, I'm here to liberate myself, set myself free through the great liberation work. God, give me life eternal and everlasting. Every time you have pain, every time you feel you're suffering, and bring in that essence, as I've shared in one of those videos before. Call in illumined legions of beings and all who work for the unanimous plan of God's great intelligence, all beings of illumined intelligence that are here to work in unison, harmony, and cooperation and co-creation with you. And we do that every morning, every day in our invocations, when we say that we're calling forth all illumined beings, guides, and masters who are here to love, serve, and support us, that together we are one in the golden circle of the cosmic Christ, which is the principle of sovereign life, the Trinity of holy life, and together in our harmony, in our resonance, in our cooperation and co-creation, we serve God as one and triune, which means God as love, wisdom, and power. And we invoke the golden spiral. We call in the legions of the dispensations of Divine Mother's love coming from that infinite golden space. So this is the most important part of the transgression work. Also, sometimes on this path, you might not know where to get help and assistance, and that's what I said. Even my body doesn't need to be here physically indefinitely, because everyone will always come and be new and find this and, you know, be a part of this. Life continues. Illumined legacy was left here. Illumined legacy is now in place. As the mother already said, the children will be fine. But the key is now that the children start feeling that it's their time now, that it's their time to leave a legacy, that it's their time to be humbled by God instead of being cocky and pretentious and thinking they know everything just because maybe their first time embodied here on this planet as a volunteer soul, for example, as a volunteer being. and they would say, well, I'm an angelic being, I don't have to do anything. There, you have to understand, there's so many tricks. The devil, the Antichrist, uses every single trick in the book. And for you to pass your training, yes, many beings go with their own mission statements and vows. They go into this darkness because they know that it will be tricky, but they also know that eventually, because God is almighty and fierce and majestic, it will pull them out when their time comes. It doesn't mean you're going to be passive in this process, no. It means that when you know your time for help is here, you will ask for your help, you will pray to God, you will love your God, you will respect your God, and God will give you everything. But you being cocky and saying, I know it all, I'm a know-it-all, and you're not going to listen, because I had many examples when I've given guidance to these star children and they haven't believed me, they haven't believed their God, working through their chosen one, their illumined elder, illumined being, serving them what they needed to hear in that moment to pass another challenge or initiation, or if they were seriously entrapped, because some of them came here and literally entrapped themselves because they've fallen for this false light and the lucrative deals of agents of the devil. I've explained in one of the recent videos that the devil, again, it uses every single trick in the book. And the recent trick I was shown because someone worked with me, we had a session, and when we began, they said even beforehand, oh, I already had my liberation just even before, we can just chat. And I know spirit, and I know illumined elders, and I know how we work. And they were all like, you know? And so I was seeing that the devil foresees, and this is, once I heard this from a Christian woman, and she was so right, because she said the devil sees in advance what your gifts are. They can't change your legacy of God. They can't take away these gifts, but they can give you an intermediary or a counterfeit, right? So what this fallen realm, what this fallen world and legions of their minions do, they would give you a counterfeit, like an experience of something that makes you feel, oh, I already got this, I already got my liberation, or I already got my beloved, and it's, for example, not the right one, or, oh, this is the right experience for me. They're taking them astray. And that is why the main lesson for every single star child here is discernment, 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 because this realm is a realm of war, greed, competition, enslavement. Basically, on top of it all, control is deception. The fallen being we know as masculine, feminine traits of the creation angel counterparts, Lucifer, Lucifera, works in many ways. And it's not just what we call the dark world. No, the beginning and the origin of the fall is the fallen light. It's the false light. And so every time people go for these psychic visions, Akashic readings, things that are basically, you know, like even in the Bible they're said, and even tarot, things like that, if you don't do it right, if you don't know how to do it right, it will be, again, gifts that will be not really gifts of God, but they will be brought forth to you by an intermediary, and that intermediary guidance will take you somewhere else that you did not choose to be, or God doesn't want you to be, but they're going to lead you astray. It's all written there, and there's so many warnings, but many have been forewarned, but they don't listen, so they get themselves in trouble, and then they expect that someone will always be there to save them. That's also cocky, because you can't expect to be ignorant and expect an elder being to always come and save your life. It doesn't go like that, because God doesn't sacrifice his legions of the most loyal ones to get cocky children out of their mess. Sometimes they got to learn their hard way. It is what it is, right? It's how this game of life functions. Everyone has to become self-earned and value, that is a value as a result of your work. It's not based on laziness and, you know, how they say, sitting on your laurels, right? So you have to know that sometimes, and I was seeing this especially most recently, how the devil gives you a hand and you believe it's the right one. They say, oh, you're already free. And a person not really using their gift of seership, vision and seership are two different things. Vision is often tainted in this realm, because this realm is a realm of distortion. It's a realm, on top of it you have a whole hologram, and you can get beautiful astral images, you can watch beautiful paintings of life, and they're all a mirage. It's called astral heaven. And all that's beautiful is usually most definitely not of illumined light. Illumined light is subtle. It is a refined world that you can't see with this eye. It's not even seen with the psychic eye. A lot of people saying, I've witnessed homes and worlds and realms. Yeah, there's many worlds and realms. Illumined realm, God does not show either through sight or even psychic sight. Illumined realm is felt through deep knowing. In the previous video, I talked about that the Illumined realm, the world of God, it's a world of truth, and the truth of love is the world of life. So for you to know that world, you yourself have to become full of life. You know, when they say you have ye become as gods, which means gods or the serpent beings who know how to wield the forces of nature, which truly are the forces of life force that's immaculate, gift, design, specifically and dispensated by none other than our beautiful God, our beloved creator. You have to know how to use life force. You have to become a pure conduit for it. You have to become pure, refined yourself. If you're doing drugs, even plant medicine, all these things, marijuana, cigarettes, alcohol, all these things, and you're saying, well, I don't need to be pure because my inner vision is pure. I've seen that over and over again in this realm, because beings get cocky and they think nothing affects them because they have a God connection and nothing will affect them. I've seen that times and times over. Wrong, press the wrong button. It doesn't work like that. For you to understand the elemental realm, you have to also understand there's elemental magic. All magic, black magic, has a source in white magic, which is the magic of fallen or false light. All that I can give you now as a prequel to what you yourself, everyone who will be on this path, will have to experience on their own, is just my own legacy, my own training, and my own footprints. I can't leave myself here. Eventually, as I said, life goes on. Life moves on. I'll have other projects, I'll have other missions, I'll have other responsibilities, as life always continuously evolves further through the spiral of the cosmic Christ. So you have to know that sometimes the devil is so tricky, they will tell you, oh, you've been already liberated and free, so you think you don't have any inner work left to do. You're fine. You can do whatever you want. Guess again. The transgression phenomena is so complex, and I always say to people, if you've met the devil once, if you had astral experiences, if you've astrally traveled, if you've done drugs, if you've been in contact with people, or you had sexual relationships with people who were, hooked, and all these things, if you met it once, I always say to people, the devil will try and do everything to keep you in its realm, either a false light or a very dark realm. And it's basically working hand in hand, because first the devil shows you a beautiful lucrative world, sorry about all the flies, and then what it does when you're in it, it gives you energies and imprints of fear and terror. And I've had these people telling me this over and over again. So for you to believe that's coming from God, you have to know this is a joke, right? So for you to be wiser than the devil, Jesus the Christ already taught you have to be wiser, wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove or a sheep or whatever, lamb. You have to know your innocence and your wisdom in discerning, or your discerning for wisdom. There is no wisdom without discernment. All that's based on vision and knowledge and guidance, three things that stand on their own as, yeah, I have that. Again, wrong. Sorry. That's my legacy, telling you the truth. Because every time you do that and you get cocky, the devil laughs at your expense and is saying, oh, look, another one. It was so easy to catch them in our net, And then we have to do the work, and I had to do so many sessions with beings who didn't even know, And then we have one session, they think, oh, I'm already free. No, it's not as easy as that, my beloveds, because I can give you a push. I can tell you information that comes directly from the Illumined family, sometimes even directly from God. Well, the Illumined ones are direct hands and feet of God, creation angels. But the thing is, you, as a part of your own path, journey, and mastery, you will have to conquer it all on your own. And so you'll have to pay attention and listen and respect the guidance coming towards you, and not be cocky about it and think, now I've got it all. I'm a player, because I've seen that. I've witnessed it, and it doesn't lead anywhere good. And when people think something happens, or maybe you have one layer of liberation, you think, oh, it's done. Again, wrong. Layers and layers. By taking in a human body, even if you are the best of the best in the creation angel world, in the human realm, this is a game, this is a play, you have to play it wisely. If you won't play with knowledge and cockiness and vision, you're going to get burned. That's the thing. You need to use vision of seership that is true illumined cognition. You have to be humble, just, and with an open, transparent heart that is loving, which means what you receive from God will come through love, not through guidance alone. It will be felt, it will feel sometimes as warm, sometimes as triggering if it's something you don't want to hear, but it will be coming out of love. Because The mother's heart only wants the best for you. Doesn't want to watch the children suffer, but sometimes children inflict their own suffering because they're not being wise, okay? They're being naughty themselves and not listening, right? And then you also, right, you have to use that wisdom in discerning, discernment of wisdom. And everything I've shared, it's all out there. Don't get lazy. Don't think, oh, now I haven't had a session on Illumined Rebirth, then I will never have it. You know, I'm going to tell you one example. I just got this example recently. Someone came on Patreon, and they've written this beautiful own demonstration of their own breakthrough. I had a session with them last summer, actually, and so they've written something. They said they want to share with everyone how the Golden Spiral teachings helped them, because they realized after a while they were kind of held in Lucifer's grip. And when Jesus Christ became their guide and they accepted them as their guide as well, they showed them all the distortions. They were told that they're kind of like, you know, in the world of death. Lucifer's world is the world of death. Like, it's an endless looping black hole, right, that just gobbles in life force because it can't create on its own. And I explain through all of my videos why this is so, because it can't create on its own, right? Darkness has been fragmented so much as that light that was original immaculate light. And darkness creates through fragmentation, while illumined beings create through divisions created as birthings of sacred pairings of those union tantric couples that are creation angels. And all of life comes into form through love. Darkness just fragments and therefore is based on separation and death and control and elimination of all that is truly of love. So someone said, finally they saw through that illusion and deception and how Lucifer had them in their grip. And they even told them things like they're homosexual and, you know, those bad thoughts. And I had many who were telling me, oh, I have these weird lusty thoughts, or I have sexual implants and inception points. Watch that video. It's all out there. Talked about it. You have to get to the root of that trauma. And to heal, the only way to heal is to return to your innocent state, to the state of innocence, and to not believe those lies. And so they said, when the Christ told me and showed me that's not the truth, I was finally able to liberate myself. And now I'm finally free. And, you know, that person just sharing their liberation through the victory of God and how they return, and also with my assistance, that just meant the world to me, because I've witnessed some rebirths or some illumined awakenings and some illumined rebirths. But this one was really immense because, again, people don't understand this. Things like homosexuality and transgenderism and all, it's all a program. And people think, oh, it's natural. It's not the way illumined Elohim beings created the human form to proliferate life, to continue the emanation of God that is pure. It doesn't mean that in itself it's tainted. It's just not an ascended experience, and it doesn't lead it to ascension. So a lot of people who will have these rebirths will see through these programs and inceptions and, you know, telling you that your gender is wrong, that God did not birth you in the right body, and all these things. It's like annihilating the creation of God that is already in itself perfect. So these reversals, as you know, already happened at birth, and a lot of children, before they're birthed through the womb of the mother, physically coming out onto this planet, they already have these rewrites. And it's all out there for those of you maybe who are new and never watched. Just go to the section of my playlist, find the Illumined Mission playlist and the Illumined Teachings playlist, right? And everything is out there, all the knowledge, but in accompanying that knowledge has to come your own discernment, your own wisdom, and your time you need to dedicate to yourself in this journey. It won't come overnight. No liberation is easy and will not come overnight, but you have to be patient and you have to trust the benevolence of your beloved God. And remember again, God is not a pushy being that wants humans to fight war with spirits. No, equal goes into equal. Like into like. Everything has its purpose in the grandiose nature of creation. But the distortion of the darkness is so tremendous that it pushes humans into these situations that they believe they are an agent of fighting the devil, or I'm going to be the one annihilating this, and I'm the savior, and all these people getting this Messiah complex that's false. Like, even as an illumined being in this physical form, I was only in the physical sense able to do as much. The most part will come after my physical ascension, but you have to know self-aggrandization and lucrative thoughts about yourself that lead to fanaticism and just basically daydreaming about yourself, and these are thoughts. It's based on mind. the only way anyone can be hijacked by the dark, which means pulled into the false astral and then pulled down to the darkness, that's how the devil works. Show you something beautiful, then pull you down and push you down into the ground, nail you to the ground. See? Oh, what a beautiful butterfly we just have. Hey! It's black and white. It's the union butterfly. Wow. So you see, now I'm shifting into my my human child. But anyway, this is how the devil works. And it's always combined with both. And until you understand this and the infinite looping between the underworld and the higher upper astral realms and what's shown to you as the lucrative world, and it's not the true world of God. Remember that. And people who go always in the mind and the teachings and the New Age and the Guruism and all that, they will be the ones prone to hijacking. People who are working and focused on their lives, planting their feet on the ground, anchoring themselves through their bodies, using their bodies as vessels for life intelligence, God intelligence, these people will be fine. But the reason why star children get so pulled into this and hijacking is because they have their own vows with this and to go and undergo this training with the darkness. But eventually they will have to end the mission and see that if they get to the point of infinite looping, it's not coming from God, that they will have to master this game and put themselves out of this loop and remember again the infinite nature of God's life, everlasting and eternal. So that's that. I don't think I can tell you more, but every time you're still in duality and your mind is split in half, your mind is polarized, and your mind wants something, the body's transfixed, doesn't move, doesn't do the changes, doesn't want to grow, you know you're not propelled and moved forward by God, because God is that infinite life force, that golden light, golden spiral that keeps wanting to move life forward, always towards its highest, best illumined potential. So I don't want to say more because the wind is getting bad. I know who always sends me these thrusts. Yesterday it was intense, but today I'm actually feeling good energies. I just know it gets too loud for me to speak. So that was our main legacy work. But the last thing I want to share is that, again, as I've said, I was so busy I haven't even gotten to that point. But now the personal one-on-one session work is ending and has ended for me, and God has said that's done. You know, I can't do more than I could do, right? And it was even that was sometimes even more than I thought I could, and it was sometimes over the top, and my body's just really exhausted. And it's time, you know, that I started focusing on my own ascension, because eventually you have to stop, because otherwise things are always pulling you back. So I was able to do this with whoever I was able to do, but you know that the legacy is out there. And now those star children who've had their own liberation, I believe that it will be their call and their quest, and they're going to be called to share their story of liberation and tell people about the darkness, and that this world is not the world of light, and it's, you know. And to all the new agey people who, you know, people tell me things like this person sleeps in a pyramid of, I don't know, metal or something, and they believe crystals are gods, and all these things, and they believe this is their last lifetime. Let me tell you something, they're partially correct, because remember when my team told me there will be no more lifetimes, for these people, they're going to go in a fake ascension timeline that exists. I'm sorry to say that, but this is what they've chosen because they haven't really paid attention to God, and they were pulled aside to the fallen light. And so they literally will ascend, but they will ascend into the version of the Luciferian creation that's not the organic, beautiful world of God. There's no love there. And people who are saying that they don't have any more chakras, they have just blank white space, well, that's the kind of people that are perfect candidates for that. And eventually I believe that even that will have its blow up, it'll have a pop. That's what God showed me. It's all temporal. So please don't have your concerns. Don't worry over the people. If they're going into fanatic thoughts, if they're too much entrapped into fear, they believe this world is doomed, or I've experienced it all from people, you know, let them be. You know, when people say, I think it says in the Bible, pray for the living. You know, you can pray if you feel called, but don't enforce anything upon anyone, because eventually it's all self-chosen. If God sends you a quest, you will know, and God will push you towards someone, and it will tell you this one. You know, that was kind of my quest, to gather the summon of the beings who were meant to ascend and elevate a little higher. But that's that. As a person, I can do more. When God sent me an impulse, it was God's life moving into that being or that soul, but that's it. As an individual, through my own will only, I can't do that. The only mission that's a true mission is when it's synonymous with the language of life force of God. Otherwise, it's coming from the mind and it's not true and it's not pure. So that's why I know things have ended now. It's as much as I could do. Otherwise, God has ended this mission through me. Anything else would be not coming from a pure space anymore. So I believe the legacy will continue, and it always is in continuation. Remember that. And what was the purpose of our beloved Master Jesus the Christ back then 2,000 years ago, and we've now done another mission, will be explained further in the Cosmic Christ. I'm not even calling it a course, but it's a teaching that will be like a gradual dispensation. I'll try to do I don't know, segments. I don't know, maybe in one. I really don't know, because I have to take the time to study it all. But remember again the principle, the one that pulls in the few that gather the many. That's always been the way the principle of life has worked, how it has worked. So I want to thank all the star children who've always paid attention, and those who've listened and haven't gone like, yeah, blah, haven't been dismissive or cocky or arrogant. Thank you so much. Man, the wind is too strong. I don't know if you can even hear me right now, but as I came with great intensity, I'm going to leave with intensity as well. Really take care of yourself, and don't forget about the things that are sometimes unpleasant to hear, but very important. These are usually the most important things to hear. And if you ever want to get more advanced knowing or training, you're always welcome to visit the Patreon, Illumined Ascension. It will remain there for quite a while. Yeah, that's that. Taking in the wind. And until we meet again, through what I've prepared next, as I've shared very soon, I want to wish you all a beautiful day, and I'll be seeing you. Take care for now.